So,
What's your question?
So, Buck, just tell me about the certification and the EPA guidelines.
The Oregon started this whole thing about wood stoves back in 1986 when the first legislation came out. And what they did was they cut off the manufacturing. Then what happened, they gave people 2 years to sell non-certified stoves. Then you could only sell certified stoves. Then the phase 2, which is the last phase, it started in 1990. Well, in 1990, they had to burn so clean, and then you had until 1992 to get rid of them. In 1991, there was legislation that said that you could not sell a non-certified stove, but it was never enforced. There was no teeth. A few years back, under a decade here, they took out a hammer over to poor real estate people and said the people have to know that they are not to be buying stoves that don't meet this criteria. The criteria is that they burn cleaner, better atmosphere, and they burn longer, and you burn less wood, and all this type of thing. This particular model here is by a company called Avalon that's been around since the 70s. They're out of this Mukilteo, Washington. Travis Industries makes both the Avalon and the Lopi. And all I can say is it's a quality stove with a quality view, and it really complements the house. And if there's any questions, people should call Buck Stove Palace. We remove stoves that are non-certified. We cannot certify a stove, but if you have a stove, such as this one right here, that is a certified stove, we don't go to the DEQ and after we deinstall the stove and get a number registered to this address. We simply give documentation that it does not have to be removed and that the stove is a legal stove. And that's what this one is here. And this is a phase 2, the cleaner of the two. There'll be a time when phase 1 is going to go away, which means we'll jump from 86 to 1990. But currently, as long as the label is on the stove, and that's critical, we run into 2 or 3 times a year where a stove is not very old, but somebody took the label off because of a heat shield or it was too obvious for aesthetics. And the bottom line is, you have to have the label. And so when we go ahead and we do deinstall a stove, or we leave a stove, we tell people if we see something obvious about their piping system. However, we are not responsible because we weren't there when it was installed, and we're there to remove a non-certified stove or do the documentation so a person can keep their nice stove and be warm in the winter. And you know what they say? A warm heart and a warm body belong together.
Oh, nice. How do I, if I'm looking at a sticker or a certificate, what am I looking for to see if it's certified?
Well, if it's a phase 1, it'll have a label that's about 2.5 by 3.5 inches, and it'll look like a graph. This could be independent, or this could be part of the safety label, which is the one that you see on stoves, which started back, about 81. I'm referring to 81 is when they started putting safety labels, how close to the walls and that. So people all the time have a tendency to say, oh, it's a legal stove because it's got the safety label. No, what we're looking for is the DEQ business that either says on the later stoves, phase 2, Department of Environmental Quality, or the early ones that have the little label that is 2.5 by 3.5, it's like a small graph. So if those are not on the stove, we have a serious problem as far as documentation, which means it's got to go. Other than that, I could say that people should be cautious when they buy a house to see that it's installed right, because we are there to remove as non-certified or do what is necessary to leave it. And with our service, we kind of like look for obvious things that maybe people got away with before or installed it themselves Who knows? So happy wood burning when the weather changes to be cold, and come see Buck Stove Palace.
Yes, thank you.